Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. I'm Eileen Sorrentino, and a member of the Religious Services Committee and the Social Justice Committee, and I'm going to be the worship associate today for Reverend Ann Fox, who is an emerita minister from Fairhaven. We are a beloved community of people who believe that everyone is worthy of respect, science is real, the democratic process is a sacred thing, that we are all part of an interconnected web, and that the light and energy we share and put out makes a difference in the world. We are people of purpose, and love is the doctrine of this church. If what you hear today resonates with you, we hope you will consider joining us. Although looking around, I think everybody here is already a member. First Unitarian in New Bedford recognizes that the land we inhabit and enjoy sits on the unceded ancestral land of the Wampanoag people, the people of the first light. We actively commit ourselves to the process of working to dismantle the legacy of colonialism and oppression of our country's native people and all who have been marginalized. Let's see. Give me a moment. I'm trying to get organized here. Okay. Where's Reverend Ann Fox is the Minister Emerita of Unitarian Memorial Church in Fairhaven, where she served for 13 years and where she is now the part-time pastoral care minister. She retired in 2014. Her first ministry was as an interim minister in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. She earned a Master of Divinity from Boston University School of Theology. Prior to ministry, Anne had a 25-year career in teaching secondary English, motherhood, and technical writing in the software industry. No grass grows under this lady's feet. She enjoys reading and gardening and also walking with her spouse, Leo Brodegam, and she is extremely delighted to be here with you today. Now we're doing the lighting of the chalice. Is there someone who can help us with that?
Marty's going to do it, and if any of the children want to join, they can.
May the light of the universe shine upon us all on this beautiful spring day. I have a little housekeeping before we start our service. First is, if you're new, there's a blue card in the pews that you can sign up, and someone will get in touch with you if you'd like to have more information about the church. We're live streaming, so when you come, and if you want to speak at the microphone, please remember that you have to speak into the microphone and be brief for the people that are listening in from the distance. Please put your phones in worship mode so we're not interrupted. And this morning, our opening words are from Reverend Ann Fox.
Good morning. The opening words are those of the Reverend Sarah Olberg.
She says, "We gather today as a religious community. We gather as distinct individuals who form one congregational family, bonded by the liberal tradition. Each of us has a separate life and history, yet we are here, all one. We bring our pain, our loneliness, our desires. We bring our joys, our hopes, our happiness. May we listen to one another and to the spirit of life, hoping to understand who we are and who we are called to be." Our first hymn is a song of hopeful peace. I want to tell you there's a word in this hymn. It's called falchion. And I notice that people say, "Falchion? What's falchion?" It's a sword, a medieval sword. So let us sing our first hymn, and rise as you're able. Number 166, "Years Are Coming."
And if you'll take a few moments to greet one another. And while you're all standing up, please join me in the unison reading of the covenant, which is in the order of service. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. Yasmin now has a story for all ages for us.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Ramadan. Good morning, everyone. Happy Ramadan.
I want to dedicate this service to two people, of which one I forgot the name of, but maybe some of the members here might recall. The first one is Lori Walkowick, who the last time I read this story, which was over 7 years ago, because that's the rule, they say don't do something in church and you can't repeat it, the 7-year rule thing. Her and her daughter held up this little storyboard I made, and at the end of service, she was like, yeah, that was like an arm workout. This year, I'm gonna show the story with the YouTube video. But there's also another member of our church who has passed since, who brought to us a wonderful tradition. I think we did it 2 years in a row. We celebrated Iftar here with our neighbors from the mosque on Cove Street, I believe. And I wanted to remind everyone of the energy. We had a beautiful potluck. They called to prayer. We shared food. We had over 400 people. We ran out of food the first year. The second year we were calling in pizzas from Minerva. Like we were full, we were blessed, and that energy still lives within our church. So I just wanted to remind everyone that yes, the pandemic happened, but those things are still on our radar, and we hope to bring those traditions back. And so this story today is for our neighbors and for all the people who are taking this time through fasting, connecting with nature, giving to others, which is really the root of our religion. So we could take this story and make the connections to ourselves. So I'm going to invite you to listen to this story, either visually, auditorily, or take this time to reflect and meditate and think of all the beauty that is within our space together. This is Ramadan Moon.
Ramadan Moon is literally culture through the light, written by Naima B. Robert and illustrated by Sharon Adam. Ramadan, the month of fasting, doesn't begin all at once. It begins with a whisper and a prayer and a wish. As the month of Ramadan approaches, we search the sky for a sign, waiting, anticipating that silver sliver of brightness, the shining white crescent. That is the Ramadan moon. And when the new moon is seen, what wonderful excitement! The news spreads like wildfire through cities, towns, and villages, across deserts and grassland, into each and every home. And Muslims of every nation, of every age and every hue, will join the celebration of the arrival of the moon. It's here. Ramadan is here. The month of mercy has begun. And in mosque after mosque of every shape and size, men, women, and children will all stand up to pray. The Imam will recite the verses of the book that was revealed hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of years ago. So now we all wake up to eat in the dark before dawn, sleepy mouthfuls for the day ahead while the silent city sleeps. Then Dad's clear voice rings out, calling all of us to pray. Our family bows like one body before the break of day. In daylight, we feel hungry, but at sunset, when we eat, it makes us a little thoughtful, a little humble, and very grateful. And each night, the moon grows fuller, like ripe and tender fruit, shining on houses filled with laughter and mosques alive with prayer. Each night they come, unfailing, this seething congregation, to reflect on the words of their Lord in silent celebration. During the day, we keep busy with all sorts of good deeds. Our voices flow with the words of God in unplanned harmonies. We look for things to give away, collect money for charity, be kind and caring and polite, try hard not to get angry. Now the Ramadan moon is round and full, a bright silver medallion, but with a special secret sorrow. We see that half the month is gone. We watch her as she wanes, losing a sliver every night, until we reach the last 10 days, those last days tinged with sadness, when we try to share more, pray more, do more, and give more. And we look for the night of power, better than 1,000 nights, that extra special night when we ask for all that we desire, wishes upon wishes and prayer upon prayer. But then the last 10 days become the last 5. The last 4 nights become the last 3. The last 2. The last. And when the new crescent moon is seen and the Eid day is announced, the Muslim world rejoices, for our festival has begun. For Eid, there will be haircuts and pretty henna patterns and visitors and brand new clothes that rustle as we walk. And in the morning, there will be the Eid prayer, charity for the poor, family and friends, parties and outings, sweets and treats, and more. But all that is tomorrow. Tonight, the city sleeps. As I look out at the night sky, my smile is bittersweet. Goodbye, great month of mercy. Hope to see you soon. Please hurry back, my silver friend, my beautiful Ramadan moon.
Does anyone remember the lovely member of our church who helped bring the iftar celebration here? I want to say Jennifer, but it'll come to me. So I dedicate this to her and to Lori because they both loved helping me all the time. So we are off to Sunday school now. May words we say be kind and true. May love be a guide in all we do.
Now is the time in our service when we share with each other our joys and concerns. If you have something you would like to share, please come forward, tell us your name, and briefly tell us what you'd like to share.
Hello. Well, I'm really thankful now that the weather's starting to get warmer. Before all of the pollen and the bugs come, I'm just really thankful for this kind of transitionary season between winter and spring. I remember 2 years ago when I was in Boston, and this kind of time of the year happened. There was like a special electricity that was all throughout the city when you were walking around, and I'm hoping to experience that electricity again within this week. The only thing is daylight savings time. Izzy wasn't feeling so good with his sleep because of daylight savings, so he just wanted me to tell you that he does not like daylight savings for this reason.
have a joy and a concern. Tomorrow is my husband's birthday, 67 years old, yay. And my concern is for my cousin Yvette, who is struggling with severe circulation issues in her legs, and she is in a nursing home. So.
So now I will light 2 candles. One for those of us who have yet to find a safe and supportive space in which to share their joys and sorrows. And one for the joys and sorrows that people have not expressed but they hold in their hearts.
Please join me in reading some of possibly the wisest words any of us will ever hear. 577. It is possible to live in peace by Mohandas Gandhi. If someone with courage and vision can rise to lead in nonviolent action, the winter of despair can, in the twinkling of an eye, be turned into the summer of hope. Nonviolence is not a garment to put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being. Nonviolence, which is a quality of the heart, cannot come by an appeal to the brain. It is a plant of slow growth, growing imperceptibly but surely. If a single person achieves the highest kind of love, it will be sufficient to neutralize the hate of millions. If we are to reach we are to reach real peace in this world, and if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with the children. The future depends on what we do in the present. Let us go inwards now into the spirit of prayer and meditation. And first, hold in our hearts those for whom candles were lit. And also hold in your heart a person you know who is in need of love. Let us be aware of our inner selves, you and me, and all those around us here, for we are one. And that is also what some say is the universal self. Let us breathe together in our awareness. Let us bring into this space the people of Gaza and Israel, and also the people of Ukraine. Let us send them love, for only love can overcome hate. That they may be strengthened and know that others, even far away, care for their well-being. May the hearts of those who are creating havoc be changed to those of peacemakers. All this we pray into the silence. And here you may speak the promptings of your own hearts or just be. Amen. Around the time of the Buddha, where meditation was going on in India, and that's what they were involved in, and trying to spread that idea of silence and being with the awareness. In China, they were philosophizing. They weren't interested in meditation and silence. They were interested in sorting out ideas and doing the right thing and challenging the emperors to do the right thing. So the reading is from the works of Mozi in China. So this was around the time of the Buddha, a little bit afterwards. And so this reading is from a book that I read, fabulous scholarly book, Non-Violence, The History of a Dangerous Idea by Mark Kurlansky. So these are the words of Mozi. To kill one man is to be guilty of a capital crime. To kill 10 men is to increase the guilt tenfold. To kill 100 men is to increase it 100-fold. This the rulers of the earth all recognize, and yet when it comes to the greatest crime, waging war on another state, they praise it. It is clear they do not know it is wrong, for they record such deeds to be handed down to posterity. If they knew they were wrong, why should they wish to record them and have them handed down to posterity? If a man, on seeing a little black, were to say it is black, but on seeing a lot of black were to say that it is white, it would be clear that such a man could not distinguish between black and white. Or, if he were to taste a few bitter things and were to pronounce them sweet, clearly he would be incapable of distinguishing between sweetness and bitterness. So, those who recognize a small crime as such, but do not recognize the wickedness of the greatest crime of all, the waging of war on another state, but actually praise it, cannot distinguish right and wrong. So, as to the right or wrong, the rulers of the world are in confusion. And with that in mind, let us sing another hymn of peace, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
hills and the pastures in their silent majesty. For the stars, for all the heavens sing me a joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and the thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation sing we are joy. praise to thee. For the words we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
Now is the time in our service when we ask for your generous and kind donations toward the many good works of this church.
I had almost forgotten about the wonderful music in this church. Yeah. Blessed are the peacemakers. A few months ago, on October the 7th, we were shocked to hear about the atrocities committed in Israel by Hamas. First upon young people at a music festival, and later at a kibbutz, where many families live in community. I believe that the total of dead was over 1,200 people. A shocking thing. We have to remember that Hamas is a terrorist organization that amazingly in 2006 was elected by the 2 million plus people, Palestinian people of Gaza, on the far eastern side of Israel. This piece is called the Gaza Strip, owing to its narrow but long piece of land. As you know, Israel has responded with troops and weapons of war. 30,000 Palestinian people have been killed so far, but Hamas continues to fight back and evade capture as they operate differently than an army. I felt as if a stone were in my heart for days. You might know that after World War II, the Jewish people were invited by the United Nations to re-establish Israel. Following the terrible extermination of 6 million Jews by Nazi Germany. What you might not know is a small but well-organized group of Jews had been buying land and property in Palestine since the late 19th century. The United Nations established Israel in Palestine, and that meant that thousands of Palestinians had to move to make room for the state of Israel. They had to move them out. The expulsion, they called it. The Palestinians did not go quietly. I remember as a girl, and perhaps you do too, some of you, seeing constant strife in that area of the world as hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were expelled. Really, this was a doomed plan from the start, and there have been many conflicts over the years. Those who were expelled were hardly compensated adequately to start a new life elsewhere, and many of them ended up in refugee camps and remain to this day. I came to America from England in February 1967 to be a nanny to a Jewish family, the Engels on Long Island. Many European girls did that. Do you know that? And by the way, British nannies were in big demand. must be because of Mary Poppins, you know. It was thrilling for me to learn about Judaism by participating in their Shabbat Friday evening dinner and prayers before going to the Reform Temple with the family. I remember this day. I even remember the Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. I remember all the prayers. You know, these stick with you like poetry. So I used to accompany them to the temple. And much of the service, except for the prayers, was in English. It was a Reform temple. The young rabbi was fiery and humorous and really made the Bible live. In June of that year, so remember I came in February, and in June, the family was in turmoil after receiving the news that all the Arab countries had come together to push the Israelis into the sea. I could feel the terror of the Engel family. However, the Arabs were poorly equipped. Many had no shoes. That I remember clearly, seeing these Egyptian soldiers with no shoes. The British-trained Israeli Air Force destroyed the airplanes of Egypt and Jordan before they got off the ground. And the war was over in 6 days. It is called the Six-Day Israeli-Arab War. In more recent times, I learned more about the plight of the Palestinian people, a people expelled from a homeland they had known for 2,000 years. Thousands of them have no homes and have lived in the refugee camps, as I said. Nowadays, I have been unable to support either side. I don't know how it was for you as a congregation, but I remember when we first heard that that this was taking place, the president of our congregation, bless her, wrote and said, "Why aren't we out protesting?" Well, we've got a UU for Justice in the Middle East organization existing for years to help and actively helping the Palestinian people. So it wasn't clear who should we support. Should we support Israel? Should we support? And we did nothing at first for weeks. It was just great confusion for us as UUs. Nowadays, I've been unable to support either side, but lately I could hardly not sympathize with the suffering of the Palestinians, whose homes are bombed out rubble, as we see every night. They're without homes and scrambling for food, some near to starvation. When this first began in October, the president of the Fairhaven, I said that, "Why aren't we out protesting?" I responded that we have a UU social justice organization. What a complicated situation we're in. And so it goes on. Oh boy. If you look around the world, you'll find endless wars, endless violence. Can religion help us understand the endless violence throughout human history? That was a wonderful story that was told today. It was a story of a people, of a religious people, putting their minds on peace, on prayer, and the universe for an entire month. Now, in Christianity, they have the this is the time of not Passover, but Easter, leading up to Easter, right? And it's a similar tradition, and it's that for a reason, because we were wanting to have some of that contemplative time, as they do in Judaism as well. We try to get it into Christianity. And so all three religions of people of the book, the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims, have this tradition of peace, But it seems the more we emphasize it, the less it becomes. Let's take a cursory look at some of the world's religions regarding war and violence. Now, the easiest thing is to start with Buddhism. Though Buddhism grew out of Hinduism with all its complexity, its beliefs are the Four Noble Truths. 1, human life is suffering. How to overcome the suffering? Practice meditation. 3, engage in spiritual and physical labor. And 4, cultivate good behavior. This leads to enlightenment. Well, of course it does. Of course. There is a code of ethics called the precepts, the first of which is refrain from taking life. The first precept of Buddhism. Well, surely this would lead us to peace and nonviolence. While the gods and goddesses of Hinduism are hardly peace-loving, ahimsa, nonviolence, is the highest law, and this is what Mohandas Gandhi preached in the 1930s and 40s. To oppose the British occupiers of India, he called it Satyagraha, truth force. He encouraged sit-ins, peaceful gatherings, boycotts, strikes, all of which are actions of persuasion. Excuse me. I'm remembering that when I spoke from this pulpit before, I had the same coughing fits. And I don't know if it's something around here. Sorry. I thought the Black Lives Matter movement during the pandemic was rather like Gandhi's movement. Really, it was. Do you remember? We were sitting at home, all isolated, and this movement arises. And who was there? Oh, so many young people. It was really young people oriented, wasn't it? All colors and flavors, really. There they were, marching for justice. Martin Luther King Jr. held steadfast to his nonviolent movement during the 50s and 60s. It was hard for him to do that. Well, it wasn't hard for him. It was hard for those who wanted to take to the streets and smash things and create violence. It was hard for them. But I think that movement was so persuasive. Were these the blessed peacemakers? Were they? I think the answer is a resounding yes. Martin Luther King was a blessed peacemaker, and so were those who followed him so faithfully. Now, stepping back into history, what did Confucius say about violence? We think that Confucius preceded Mozi in the reading earlier, about 200 years. In the year around 500 BC, Confucius defined the function of government as providing food and troops and earning the people's confidence. Asked which could be suspended in hard times, Confucius said, dispense with the troops. This idea that military is essential to government, but less essential than the other functions through the Analects, that is the collection of Confucius's teachings. Mark Kurlansky tells us in his book, Nonviolence, the History of a Dangerous Idea, if good men were to administer the government for 100 years, violence would be overcome. And when the question comes up about how to deal with the barbarians, the reply is, if the distant peoples, this is Confucius now, if the distant peoples do not submit, then build up culture and character, and so win them. And when they have been won, give them security. How is this for a nonviolent, persuasive approach to peacemaking? And how to handle immigration. Build up culture and character, and so win them. However, 200 years later, a philosopher called Mozi was more like Jesus. He called for universal love and emphasized helping the poor. We think that they were from a different class, Mozi and Confucius. Mozi saw this concept of mutual love as the key to righting the world's ills. He emphasized what is also in Judaism, that we now call the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Also in the 5th century, Taoism, defined in the book called the Tao Te Ching, which I suspect many of you have read, specifies how to flow with the energy of the Tao, to overcome adversity and evolve. Taoism is famous for teaching nothing but the Tao, flowing with the Tao. This is the answer to all problems. Flow with the Tao. There's nothing to learn except to flow with the Tao. Therefore, there is nothing, no thing to teach. It is time for a humor break. 2 Taoists went to a bar with a rabbi and a priest. The rabbi said to the priest, "When we go to heaven, we're allowed to leave." The priest said to the rabbi, "When we go to hell, we're stuck there." The Taoist said, "Nothing. We're not going anywhere. Nothing." And in a more familiar humor, a Muslim cleric, a Jewish rabbi, and a Christian pastor walk into a bar. "We need to use your phone. There was an accident." "What happened?" asked the bartender. "We put up a sign that said, 'Turn back, the end is near,' and someone kept driving." "So?" asked the bartender. "Well," the rabbi said, "we should have just written 'bridge out.'" Bridge out. Judaism, in the sixth of the 10 Commandments, specifies, "Do not kill." Hello, do not kill. Generally, present day excluded, Judaism does not celebrate military victories. Did you know that? They do not. They do not celebrate them. The only celebration in Judaism is Hanukkah, the miracle of the flame in the temple continuing to burn until the triumph of the Maccabees over those who had desecrated the temple. So they didn't celebrate the war, the triumph. They celebrated the miracle of the burning of the flame for all of that time. On the solemn Yom Kippur, the New Year, violence is among the sins for which to atone. Even Passover celebrates the escape from Egypt and has a moment of sorrow for the Egyptians who drowned in the Red Sea. If you have ever been to a Passover celebration in the Jewish tradition, they do have moments of sorrow for the Egyptians still in that Passover celebration. Because of the Egyptians who died so that they could live in freedom. Jews are instructed every year not to hate their enemy. They are taught that one day a perfect human being will come, the Messiah, and then the Jews will return to Israel for the Messianic age. History, though, through the United Nations, altered the prediction. Though most religions shun warfare and hold nonviolence as the only moral route, some violent people co-opt societies and make peace impossible. Groups like Hamas fall into that category. Their expressed intent is to make Palestine an Islamic state in Israel. Hamas's intent is to make Palestine an Islamic state in Israel. Islam was formed by Mohammed in the 6th century. Its stories are taken and adapted from Judaism and Christianity, and Jesus is a prophet, with Mohammed being the final prophet. Mohammed wanted laws that were fair to all people. He proclaimed a complete ban on violence to create the perfect society. He banned violence. But he couldn't maintain the peaceful society and found he had to create armies. So, about our Prince of Peace, Jesus of Nazareth. He has many teachings on peaceful behavior. Most Christian theologians agree that the most powerful of them are those given on the Sermon on the Mount. I believe we have him here. I'm not sure that's the Mount, but isn't it? Okay, tell me afterwards, please. And this is in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. It begins with Jesus going up the mountain and then delivering what we have come to know as the Beatitudes, meaning blessings of great joy. Each one begins with blessed are. The 6th one is, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Following the Beatitudes are many suggestions about making peace with your brother or sister or other person you may have offended. It's very explicit. If you don't read anything else in the Bible, read this. It's well worth a read. It continues. There's also encouragement to be truthful in this chapter, also where Jesus advises that we turn the other cheek when somebody offends us. Here too, he advises, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So the would-be peacemakers are also urged to make peace with all those not in your family and friends groups. You make peace with everyone. Jesus taught that we should be peacemakers. That is the central teaching of Jesus. If you want to know the central teaching, that's it. Be peacemakers. Not so easy. And peacemaking begins with the individual being peacemakers. When the disciples, especially Paul, go out to teach others and establish the churches, Paul writes letters of encouragement. So after the 4 Gospels, you have all the letters of Paul to the churches that he's established. He writes letters of encouragement to the churches to bring peace to one another and to reconcile differences. So this theme of being peacemakers is continued as the churches are established. You can see all of this in Paul's letters to the Romans, the Corinthians, the Galatians, and so on. It's worth a read, folks. They even greet one another with, peace be unto you. I've always loved the passing of the peace in Christian churches. I think that's a lovely thing. Usually at the end of a service, or sometimes at the beginning. Didn't you used to have that greeting one another? Oh, I missed that. I was behind there. Okay. No, that's lovely. So if you're in a Christian church, I'll say, peace be with you. Peace be with you. It's a lovely thing. So how do we become peacemakers? We put our minds and hearts on it. We put our minds and hearts on it. I want to remind you in the reading that we did by Mohandas Gandhi, he says, if a single person achieves the highest kind of peace, nonviolence, if a single person achieves the highest kind of peace, it will be sufficient to neutralize the hate of millions. One person can neutralize the hate of millions. I find that a powerful teaching, powerful. Gandhi was no ordinary person, but neither was Martin Luther King. So how do we become peacemakers? We put our hearts on it. Louise Diamond wrote a book called The Courage for Peace. She advises that we call forth from our own deep self the spirit of peace. What is the spirit of peace? You are. You are the spirit of peace. But we have to connect with it, don't we? She urges us to create a space of peace that we go to in our minds, to experience peace when our lives need it. We can even be a place of peace we have created in our home. We can go to this place or image of peace within and allow that experience to be part of our lives. It takes practice, but may be well worth it. From our cursory look at some of the major religions, we can see that most counsel peaceful behavior. They do, all the world's religions. May we help our state, our country, to encourage a more peaceful world. It is sorely needed. May we be the blessed peacemakers. So let us end with the hymn 159. This is my song. Please rise as you're able.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My tree skies are bluer than the ocean, and the sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and the skies are everywhere and blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
May we each harness the spirit of peace within us, knowing that all the world's religious wisdom counsels this. If we hold in our hearts that peace is the personal goal of our lives, and we think on it deeply and take action towards it, perhaps we will be the harbingers of greater peace in our world. So may it be.
I have one important announcement. Next week, we are not having an in-person service in the church because it's the New Bedford Half Marathon, and you can't drive and you can't park, and it's impossible. But we are having an online service, so tune in. You can find the link either in on the website or in the Compass that comes out every week. Thank you. Please join us in the parish hall for coffee and visiting. Thank you.